In a year where escapism has never been more necessary, video games have rarely felt more essential. We can't explore the world at large right now, so the next best substitute is to get lost in the digital world. Not the Digimon digital world. Digimon Survive sadly got delayed until next year. But the many wonderful, intricate video game worlds that can briefly shelter us from the horrors of our own current reality. We had new console launches, the Switch going from strength to strength, disastrous game launches, but I've narrowed it down to the 10 games I enjoyed most in 2020. Given the timing of its release, Animal Crossing New Horizons will forever be inextricably linked to the world shutting down. But as we were all stuck at home, we could at least tend to our flowers and pester our needy neighbours on our Animal Crossing islands. I'm not the biggest Animal Crossing guy. I usually dabble on the surface level and then marvel from afar at the brilliant creations people with infinitely more patience can create. But the routine in those early days of lockdown of just checking in on my island, doing my few daily tasks, chipping away at my latest little project, and checking out until tomorrow was the perfect way to wind down and release some tension during a very tense time. It was basically therapy through Animal Crossing. The best compliment I can give to Astro's Playroom is it feels like a game Nintendo made. It has all the polish and playfulness that comes with Nintendo's best platformers. Clearly lovingly crafted to celebrate the history of PlayStation in a much more comprehensive and detailed way than PlayStation All-Stars ever did. The levels are wonderfully designed, full of secrets and PlayStation nostalgia. The fanfare about the controller is a little overblown. The controller-specific motion control sections are the worst part of the game. But everything else is top quality. The only thing keeping it from being higher on this list is there's just not enough of it. Give that team all the money in the world to make a full game, Sony. They'll deliver. Crash 4 It's About Time is about as faithful to the original trilogy as it could be. When it soars, it's a wonderful throwback to the kind of games we all loved growing up, with fun platforming and really great presentation. But it's a warts and all tribute, because it does have a lot of the unfair difficulty and deep frustration from those old games too. Maybe it's the nostalgia blinding me a little, but I still really enjoyed it regardless. Is it really a Crash game without some unnecessary suffering? Fun, pretty, occasionally frustrating and unfairly designed, it's a true sequel to the originals. I have some issues with Final Fantasy VII Remake's level structure and storytelling, but the areas it does excel are among the highlights of 2020. Its combat is so much fun, clearly taking inspiration from the faster flow of Kingdom Hearts and improving greatly on the Final Fantasy XV system to create a system that is much faster and fluid. It particularly soars in one-on-one encounters. The other strength, aside of course from the superb soundtrack, is in the reverence to the characters of the original. Stretching the Midgar section gives the game more time to sit with the characters and flesh them out. In that aspect in particular, the game exceeds the original. The Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games are basically like, here's some fun mechanics and a neat play space to mess with them. And they're like the best games of all time? Video games really aren't hard. The remix of the PS1 classics felt like true throwbacks to an era of game design without pretense, where games just let you mess around and have fun, burdened less by storytelling or realism rather than delivering silly fun. I wish more games were like that these days. Drop you in a sandbox with a set of tasks and just go mess around. It was so refreshing this year to go back to those kind of games. I'm really bad at these games, but they still rule. I bounced off of Ori and the Blind Forest after a few hours. It just didn't hook me. Elements of the platforming felt too loose, some obstacles weren't made clear enough in the environments, and the level design just didn't have those aha moments you want from Metroidvanias when you get a new ability. Maybe I was just cranky when I played the first Ori, but Ori and the Will-o'-the-Wisps was the exact opposite. I couldn't put it down, an improvement mechanically on the original in every way. Each new ability opened up the world in fun ways, each section was like a satisfying movement puzzle to be solved, and combat, which I perhaps liked least about the original, felt way smoother. It of course still had the same gorgeous art as the original and the simple, moving storytelling that makes the whole experience so memorable. The whole game is the total package, gameplay, mechanics, art and story, with music as well, coming together to create something really special. Look, Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory probably isn't going to be this high on literally any other Game of the Year list, but this is as much of a me game as you're gonna get. I love the theatrhythm. Theatrhythm? Listen, I'm just gonna leave my failure to say theatrhythm in and pretend it was just a bit. Not utter incompetence and an inability to say words. I love those games. I play them to death. Doing a Kingdom Hearts version seemed like a no-brainer. They did it, and I played it to death too. At the end of the day, this is predominantly a celebration of Yoko Shimomura's utter genius, and just an interactive way to listen to Kingdom Hearts music. And that's pretty much all I ever want from games. I'm a simple man. Spider-Man Miles Morales and the PS4 game before it have basically ruined all other open world games for me. If the simple act of moving around your world isn't as fun as it is in this game, I don't care anymore. If I have to slowly, awkwardly lug my way around a world that's too big instead of whipping across a city quickly, I'm out. I think that's a big part of why I just couldn't get into Ghost of Tsushima. The exact same thing happened with Miles Morales as with Spider-Man on PS4. I groaned at all the icons that filled my map, and then immediately went to collect them all. Moving alone is just that much fun. Add in Miles being a more interesting central character than Peter, and honestly a perfect, relatively short runtime, and this is all I want from games. This and Yoko Shimomura tributes. Clearly, that's what I look for in games in 2020. Paper Mario The Origami King is so good it made me like Paper Mario Color Splash, a game I used to defend from the hate it gets, a lot less. It improves on literally everything Color Splash did well and smooths over a bunch of the cracks. It looks absolutely gorgeous, taking the paper aesthetic as far as it can to produce a wonderful folded paper crafted world where everything is stunning and full of colour. The music is just insanely good, better than it has any right to be. It's legitimately an all-time great soundtrack. The game is among the funniest games ever made. Every single Toad has some sort of goofy one-liner or quip, usually some self-aware fourth wall breaking in joke. And the battle system is pretty good. It's not great, but it's not terrible either and really excels in memorable boss fights. Plus some of the battle music is just ridiculously good. More importantly though, the game has some extremely memorable companion characters and packs a surprisingly emotional punch. If you can get over the fact that they left some of the RPG conventions from earlier games behind, there's an awful lot to love about the Origami King. The most remarkable thing about Hades is just how cohesive the game design is. Every single aspect of the combat, the progression system, the characters, the storytelling, and the roguelite structure work in harmony. Every single aspect of the game is contextualized within the world. Nothing is just there for the sake of it. It all has a purpose and a reason for being, both simply from a gameplay perspective, but also from a storytelling perspective. The combat is tremendous, catering to so many different playstyles, and while you'll die a lot, dying is woven into the game in a way that makes it almost feel like a reward by itself. You might get some cool story advancement or new character beats between runs. The game incentivizes continuing to climb the depths of hell long after your first escape too. It's never just runs for run's sake. It really is a staggering achievement in game design on every single level, and far away from me, the 2020 Game of the Year. Thank you so much for watching Hades Game of the Year. Let me know what was your Game of the Year down in the comments below. Last year was Fire Emblem for me. Second year in a row I've done Game of the Year. Very consistent. Look at me. If you're like, what about this game? Odds are I didn't finish it. Sorry. I will get to The Last of Us, both of them, eventually. If you like the video, leave a like, leave a subscribe. You can wait till next year's Game of the Year. Very excited for that. Who knows what'll be on it. You can follow me on Twitter at GarrettKidney, GARETTKIDNEY. On your left, my reviews of Tarzan, Hercules, and A Bug's Life. On your right, my retrospective of Final Fantasy VII. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye.